In World War II, cooking was not a comfort issue, you know. It was actually a logistics problem tied directly to morale, concealment, fuel supply, and, well, survival. Field kitchens weren't judged by how fast they could boil water or how light they packed, not at all. They were judged by how reliably they could feed people when fuel was scarce, the weather was brutal, and enemy observation was constant. That kind of pressure honestly produced a field kitchen arrangement that modern camp stoves, for all their clever engineering, still fail to match. This really wasn't about one stove or one trick. It was a system, right? A layout of fire, insulation, heat retention and sequencing that minimized fuel use, reduced visibility and, importantly, kept food hot long after the flame was gone. Once you understand how it all worked, modern stoves begin to look, well, a bit wasteful and fragile by comparison. The wartime mindset, you see, treated heat as a resource, not just a flame. Modern camp cooking tends to revolve around continuous combustion. You light a burner and keep it running until the food's done, simple as that. But World War II field kitchens treated flame as something to use briefly and then, eliminate. Heat was captured, stored and redistributed. This way of thinking, honestly, came straight from fuel rationing. Coal, wood and liquid fuel were all limited, that's for sure. Every minute a fire burned was a minute of exposure and a drain on supply. The solution then was to arrange cooking so that most of the work happened after the fire was out. One of the most effective wartime arrangements was the haybox cooker, widely promoted by the British Ministry of Food and adopted in field kitchens across Europe. Food was brought to a boil using a concentrated heat source, then immediately transferred into an insulated container packed with straw, cloth, paper, or anything that trapped air. Once sealed, the pot continued cooking for hours without additional fuel. Stews, grains, beans and root vegetables finished perfectly. A meal that normally required 2 hours of burning used 15 minutes of fire instead. In military use, this meant cooks could prepare food before dawn, extinguish all flames, and serve hot meals later without lighting anything near the front. Modern camp stoves cannot replicate this because they are not designed to integrate with insulation and heat storage. They assume constant burning. Field kitchens were, often targets. Smoke and flame drew artillery and air strikes. The Dakota fire hole solved this by putting combustion underground. 2 connected holes created a natural draft that burned fuel hotter and cleaner, while keeping smoke close to the ground. Cooking pots sat directly over the fire chamber, concentrating heat upward. Less wood was required, which was really practical. Smoke dispersed before rising, and from a distance nothing was visible. Modern camp stoves vent exhaust upward by design. Even the cleanest burners produce a visible thermal and visual signature. The Dakota fire hole integrated cooking into the terrain itself, something no manufactured stove can do, honestly. During the Second World War, field kitchens relied heavily on insulated containers known as the mermite. Now, these weren't just ordinary transport cans, They were actually part of the whole cooking system. Food would go in boiling hot and, remarkably, It would stay hot for 4 hours or even longer, all without any external energy. This clever approach allowed for centralized cooking well away from danger, and it meant meals could be served later on without any need for reheating. Plus, it let cooks batch cook efficiently, using just one fire to feed many people at once. These days, outdoor cooking is all about how efficient your burner is. But honestly, heat retention is almost completely ignored. The moment you take a pot off a modern stove, it starts losing heat straight away. Back in the Second World War, kitchens actually planned for that loss and took steps to prevent it. At the individual soldier level, the same philosophy applied. Canteen cup stoves, trench candles, and improvised ration can stoves all shared one trait. They worked with minimal fuel and could be made from scavenged materials. A canteen cup placed over a small underground fire boiled water quickly while remaining hidden. Trench candles turned waste into hours of steady heat. Ration cans became disposable stoves that weighed nothing because they started as trash. Modern camp stoves depend on proprietary fuel and intact components. When either fails, the system stops. WWII arrangements assumed failure and built redundancy into everything. British forces relied heavily on solid fuel systems like the Tommy cooker. It was simple, slow, and honestly pretty unremarkable. But the thing is, it also worked in cold, wind, rain, and mud, without needing any valves, seals, or pressure. Modern canister stoves, they really outperform solid fuel in ideal conditions. But in real conditions, well, valves freeze, pressure drops, and efficiency just collapses. WWII designers, they prioritized certainty over speed. A stove that always worked was, in their eyes, superior to one that only sometimes worked better. When it came to feeding groups, field kitchens often used earth ovens. After an initial burn to heat the soil or stones, the food cooked entirely on that retained heat. Bread, meat and vegetables all cooked evenly, without needing much attention or any additional fuel. Modern camp ovens, they require constant monitoring and fuel. But earth ovens, well, they required planning, not fuel. Once sealed, they pretty much cooked themselves. Modern stoves are optimized for convenience in stable conditions. WWII field kitchen arrangements were optimized for instability. They minimized fuel, hid heat, stored energy, and worked with the environment instead of fighting it. They assumed supply interruption. They assumed detection risk. They assumed equipment failure. Modern designs assume none of those. The superiority of WWII field kitchen arrangements is not nostalgia. It is engineering shaped by necessity. These systems fed millions under conditions where modern camping gear would fail quickly. If this breakdown changed how you think about wartime logistics, survival engineering, or the false security of modern convenience, subscribe to the Wartime Frontlines, share this with someone who studies history seriously, and keep these lessons alive. They were learned the hard way, and they still matter.